everyone, this is Rudy from Rudy Martin Photography, and I just finished having an awesome conversation with Shannon over at Wedding Venue Map. Now, she is a national and local wedding expert in regards to the ins and outs of the wedding industry, and I really just wanted to reach out to her and talk to her about coronavirus or COVID-19 and how it's affecting couples that are either planning their wedding, starting out, or considering rescheduling or postponing their wedding, and what options are available for them. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy day to talk to me about wedding planning. Really, what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you a couple of things in regards to what's going on in the whole wedding industry in regards to COVID-19 or coronavirus. I'm sure people are well aware of it, but let's go ahead and get into it. As an industry leader and an industry expert, how does COVID-19 change the entire wedding planning process for couples?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such an interesting time. Um, our company, we're a local resource at Wedding Venue Map that we have that conversation on both sides of the coin. So we're talking to the engaged couples that are looking at rescheduling dates for the future and making changes to the plans that they previously had,
Hmm.
but also talking to the venues and the vendors and really trying to hear how everybody's truly banding together to do their very best to be as helpful as possible. Hospitality, we all come from that customer service background. And each company is trying to make the best decisions that they can to not only help the couples, but make sure that they also consider the health of the company for the long term.
I agree with you 110%. Now, obviously, there were a lot of couples that were just in the midst of starting to plan their weddings, especially with the holidays that just passed. Can couples go ahead and what can they do in order to continue the wedding planning process right now?
Right. I mean, I think there's so many people, what we in the industry call engagement season, which is really
Hmm.
from like the holidays through Valentine's Day, when so many proposals happen and couples are in that super early stage of planning their wedding. This puts a little wrench in the plans, right? Because maybe they're thinking, well, we should just stop. But as an industry, the vendors, the venues, we're all still working.
It's
So,
true.
because I think sometimes couples just see us at weddings
Hmm.
and they don't realize that we work all week in between the weddings. So we're all still working.
Hmm.
And now more than ever, you're probably going to have better availability for appointments
Yeah.
to schedule and talk to vendors, right?
Yeah.
Like our calendars have opened up a little bit more.
Hmm.
The priority is, of course, helping couples that are having to displace their wedding to a different date. But people should continue the planning process. So
Hmm.
whatever was next, whether you booked a venue or haven't booked a venue, or the next step was planner or DJ or photographer or flowers or cake. I mean, whatever's next in that list, you can continue with the planning process, reaching out to vendors, scheduling appointments. We're just doing everything a little bit differently.
Touche, touche. Now, obviously, like I'm a wedding photographer. Marta's a wedding photographer, my wife. So we know a lot about wedding photography. With your niche, you're essentially an expert in regards to wedding venues above all else, and at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think brides and grooms can do, the couples that are planning everything? What do you think they can do in order to continue that search for venues, especially with the social distancing that's going on? What are some options that they have?
Yeah, so step one is always when you're searching for a venue to really do your research, right? The same way that you would have done it before anything has happened with the virus, you would go online and you would search and you would look through photos and watch some videos, read through reviews, searching on websites like Wedding Venue Map, which is local here in Central Florida. Obviously, there's lots of other resources online where you can do that research a little bit and dig to maybe narrow that list from 30, 50. We have hundreds in Central Florida to narrow that down to really your top 10 to 15. And then reach out to the venues,
Mhm.
right? You can reach out to them, start having conversations with them, gathering more information and data, things like, packages and pricing information, and still plan on doing the appointment. We're just not doing them in person anymore.
Yeah. That makes so much sense, especially like I know that there are a lot of venues that are now doing like Skype tours or like virtual tours
Yeah.
where like the sales coordinator, they'll go ahead and get like their cell phone and start, walking around and showing the different locations that are available towards the bride and groom, and just couples in general. I mean, is that a better option? I know normally that's something that's for destination weddings, but
Right.
I mean, even now living in Orlando, is that a better option for couples?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the venues are already prepared because Central Florida is such a destination wedding, location that we
Hmm.
do get so many couples planning from abroad. A lot of the venues are pretty well prepared,
Hmm.
whether they're doing it, like you said, a FaceTime tour. You can use like, Facebook Messenger and video chat, Zoom, Skype, all of these other opportunities are there for them to physically walk you around.
Right.
But even for the venues that may not be open at the moment where staff is there, they
Right.
can do like video tours and use videos that they've already created. And, to be able to show you through the spaces and what the flow would look like
Hmm.
using all the photos and things that they already have as asset marketing assets for their company to be able to give you the tour to the best of their ability.
Cool. That's awesome. That and you're right. That makes so much sense, especially being a destination location. Now, obviously, there's a lot of concern in regards to what's happening in the next couple of months. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. What options are available to the couples that were planning on getting married in the next couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a trying time. We understand that there's so much disappointment with what the original plans were. And obviously, everybody's personality type is so different in terms of how you choose to internalize and handle. First and foremost, understand that no one wanted this to happen. The vendors don't want to be postponing, the venues don't want to postpone as much as you don't want to.
Yeah.
So it's looking at, what are those opportunities and what does that look like? Most couples are opting to try to continue to keep their wedding in 2020. They don't want to plan and schedule much further past that. They
Hmm.
really want to continue and be able to circle back. Obviously, we don't exactly have a specific date in mind, but in general, that late summer into early fall window,
Hmm.
it's a little bit quieter of a wedding and event season here in Central Florida. So there's so much availability to be able to transfer all of your vendors to a date that a lot of them or most of them will probably have available. So looking at dates, first starting by having the conversation with your venue
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
to find available dates. Step one, right, Rudy?
All right.
Step one is to reach out to your venue and to see what they have available, and then start reaching out to your vendors to try to see if you can marry the dates in between what the vendors still have open and available and what the venues have open and available. And another option we have seen is doing a little bit smaller, really intimate elopement type
Hmm.
ceremony where couples who have chosen a date that's like near and dear to their heart for whatever reason that specific date matters to them is that they're moving ahead and getting married just the two of them.
Hmm.
So they're postponing the big ceremony and reception to another date, but they're moving forward with planning that more intimate elopement of the
Hmm.
two of them, a witness or two, and someone who can legally perform that ceremony. So that is another option if the date was very important to you. I mean, and you can do it anywhere. Pick a beautiful tree outside and be able to have that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that I definitely 100% agree. Like, I know that there are plenty of couples that reach out to Marta and I and are like, this is the date that we want. And there's nothing else that, will change that because this is the date that we met, or this is the date
Mhm.
that, he proposed to me a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever it may be. And it has a sentimental value to it. So I could
Yeah.
definitely see a couple, still holding on to that date and just moving the festivities to a different date where they can go ahead and include all of their friends and all of their family to be a part of the celebration. So I definitely agree that that should be um, an option. Now, obviously, in the midst, in the same vein of conversation, should people stop planning their wedding altogether?
No, I mean, I know that it's just very uncertain times that we're in at the moment.
Right.
There's a lot of information that we don't know exactly what tomorrow looks like or 7 days from now looks like,
Right.
but there's so many things that you can continue to do. You can be following vendors on Instagram and scoping out their work. You can do the meetings and schedule the appointments and do the Skype meeting and gather proposals and get your quotes together, even narrowing down specific categories to say, we've met with these three DJs or had phone calls with these two florists, and we know this is who we really want to go with. If you are in a place to be able to pull a contract and put down the deposit, have that conversation with the vendor to see what the next steps are to actually book them. But it's okay to continue planning without that, like, scary maybe next step of 100% confirming dates and contracts, which I understand. You just got to be careful.
Yeah, it's definitely a very very tricky situation. So on the other side of the spectrum, on the other side of the same coin, what are any tips that you would give couples who are moving forward with the planning process and are saying, you know what, everything that's going down, whatever, I still want to move forward and I still want to go
Yeah.
ahead and plan my wedding?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, be a little bit more patient with vendor response
Hmm.
than maybe in the past you could have expected. If a vendor is someone that does a good quantity of events and good quantity of weddings, know that they're probably inundated with phone calls and emails of clients looking at postponing. So be a little bit more flexible,
Hmm.
and realize that just because they don't reply back 2 hours, 6 hours, even 24 hours,
Hmm.
doesn't mean that your future wedding day isn't important to them. So cut them a break a little bit, especially the moms and dads of the world.
Guilty.
I don't have little ones at home, but trying to work from home, homeschool, daycare, do all the things, take care of current booked clients, and try to make time for working with new ones. So just have a little bit of patience. That's my
Hmm.
first tip.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, it's,
I
you
know it.
live
I
it,
know
right, Rudy?
exactly what you're talking about because I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm like juggling a lot of things at the same time. So I appreciate the patience that most couples give us because I tell them right from the get go, like my office is upstairs. I edit with my kid running around, but I make things happen at the end of the
Yeah,
day. But I do agree with you that like I normally, because of technology and cell phones in general, the response time is typically there that the moment I get an inquiry or a contact form filled out, I'm like, hey, what's up? How are you doing?
right.
But because of what's happening in the past week, things
Yeah.
have been a little bit up in the air and it's kind of juggling that plus this plus that. So yeah, I appreciate that point of, please give us a little bit of patience. So you're right. You're right. You're 100% right.
So I have one other tip. So if you have maybe attended a wedding show in January and February or sometime this spring, or you've set an appointment with a vendor and you've had the conversation, you know it's somebody you really want to book, and your wedding is coming up later on the latter half of this year, even into early next year, and in your head you were like, we have so much time. I need you to remember that all of these displaced couples in the next 2 months, in that next 8 week window, they're all moving into fall and winter dates. So if there was a vendor that you had your heart set on, if you knew that Rudy and Marta had to be the photographer for your wedding and that you were ready, you're like, I definitely want to do this, I wouldn't wait, because the chances that one of these displaced couples might be moving into a date, I mean, there's only so much juggling everybody can do right now, right? So if you know someone, reach out to them, say you want to move forward, that you'd like to take the next steps to put down a contract. How much is the deposit? Can they create a payment plan? Like, have those conversations. I think the small businesses of the wedding industry, which is probably more often than not the larger percentage of companies, are small businesses. They're willing to be more flexible, to make sure that everybody is winning.
Definitely, definitely. I 100% agree with you. That's one thing that I did a Facebook or yeah, Facebook Live and an IG Live recently where I talked about that same exact thing where I was like, a lot of the couples that have been reaching out to us that are talking about postponement, they're
Yeah.
looking at fall, winter, and even spring of 2021. Those are the dates that, if you were interested in us, like you got to book. If not, like I might not have that date available in the future. So
And I know that, like, from a couple standpoint and from a customer standpoint, it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow right now
mhm.
when anybody is saying to me, buy now, it won't be here, it's going to be gone, buy now, because it's a little bit of an uncertain time.
Yep.
I'm saying have that conversation.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, reach out to the vendor and at least start talking about what the next steps look like to see if this is something that you were able to lock in, and they're not nobody's saying it to try to scare you. I mean, it's the best we can do is give all of the engaged couples out there planning a wedding the heads up.
Yep. I agree with you. Definitely 100%. You're preaching to the choir to say the
Yeah,
least.
I know, I know.
But no. I definitely appreciate your time more than anything else because I know that you're a very busy person and I appreciate your insight because from a photographer's perspective, we look at things one way, but somebody that works with so many wedding venues and so many professionals in the wedding industry, it's nice to have a little bit of insight from the other side of the spectrum. So I appreciate your
Yeah, it
time.
is. We just want all the couples to make sure that, they take a deep breath.
Hmm.
Remember that no one is out to stick it to you. No one is trying to pull one over on you.
Hmm.
It is an industry full of choices and
Hmm.
signing contracts
Hmm.
and putting down retainers and initial payments and really understanding what that looks like.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Shannon, and have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great day.
I hope that that provided a little bit of information and knowledge in regards to what options are available. Whether you're in the midst of planning or you're in the midst of rescheduling or postponing, there are options that are available for you. Now, I do appreciate your time. If you do have any questions about anything, leave them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And if there are any other topics that you'd like for us to go ahead and talk about, feel free to let us know. We're here to help you out. Until next time, everybody, happy planning.